There is something about family estrangement I still don't understand. Not the leaving. People leave, relationships fracture, families fail each other. Sometimes distance is necessary. I understand all of that. What I don't understand is the coldness. How does someone who once knew the sound of your laugh become unmoved by the sound of your grief? How does someone who once called because they needed you learn to live as though you never existed? How do birthdays pass? Christmases, illnesses, years. How does a human being become accustomed to the absence of someone they once loved? That is the part nobody seems able to explain. Instead, we explain their boundaries, their anger, their memories, their reasons, their right to protect themselves, their right to choose peace. And sometimes those explanations are entirely legitimate. But there is a question we seem almost afraid to ask. What about the person who was left? What happens to them? Who wonders what it costs to wake up every morning inside a loss that has no funeral? Who considers what it does to a human being to discover that someone they would still run toward in an emergency can apparently live quite comfortably without them? Who asks what it is like to love someone you are no longer permitted to love out loud? There is a peculiar cruelty in being told to understand the person whose absence is breaking your heart. Because perhaps you have tried. Perhaps you've spent years examining yourself. Perhaps you've apologized, gone to therapy, read the books, replayed the conversations, questioned your memories, questioned your motives, questioned yourself. Perhaps you've considered their pain so thoroughly that you've nearly disappeared from your own story. And still, someone says, try to understand how they feel. At some point, something inside you wants to scream, I have. Who is trying to understand me, not absolve me, not declare me innocent, not decide who was right. Understand me. Understand what it is like to lose someone who is still alive. Understand the bewilderment of realizing that the person you cannot stop loving appears capable of living without you. Understand why you still look at photographs, why certain dates hurt, why your heart jumps when the phone rings, why you sometimes rehearse the conversation that may never happen. And understand the question that sits underneath all the others. How can someone who once loved me be this unmoved by losing me? Maybe there is no answer. Maybe estrangement contains a mystery that psychology, boundaries, attachment theory, family systems, and every self-help book ever written cannot completely solve. Because eventually the question stops being clinical. It becomes human. How did we go from loving each other to this? And perhaps one of the deepest wounds of estrangement isn't only losing someone you love. It is in discovering how few people are willing to sit beside you without explaining why you deserve to lose them. Sometimes we don't need another explanation for the person who walked away. Sometimes we need someone willing to witness the person who was left behind.